bigger. That's why GameRanks wants to talk to you today about the top 40 PC games of 2016. Number 40, Lost Ark. Are you a big fan of Diablo or other hack and slash games that are similar to Diablo, maybe even Zelda? Well, Lost Ark basically exists for you. It's a gorgeous MMORPG version of that style game. There's going to be these really massive open world battlefields and a PvE arena feature where players can battle with light monsters. It really looks like a massive MMORPG that's just going to be something great for Diablo players, and believe me, we can sometimes be a desperate lot. Number 39, Battlefleet Gothic Armada. Okay, so there's a lot of Warhammer 40k games. A lot. But if this RTS set in the universe doesn't get you excited, then you haven't looked at it yet. It's developed on the Unreal Engine 4, and it's boasting extreme customization all over. From your defense systems, to your support subsystems, to your weaponry, to managing every ship during and after battles, and on top of that being in one of the coolest universes out there, this is a gorgeous looking RTS. Number 38, Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. So a couple years ago, Capcom released an RPG by the same team that made Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, and Breath of Fire. And over time, they've made some improvements to that game through various DLCs, and created a really massive open world that actually engrosses you and makes you feel as though you have consequence within the world itself. This game plays a whole lot like if you combine Oblivion with Monster Hunter, which is a weird combo, but trust me, it works really well. And frankly, there's a certain kind of excitement that comes along with having this kind of game on the PC. Number 37, Homefront: The Revolution. It's just every kind of weird that you want from Homefront at this point. It's 2 years after the first Homefront in 2029. There's a Korean invasion in Philadelphia, and it's obviously your responsibility to stop it. Not exactly a killer plot or anything, but who expected that? Who asked for that even? It's Homefront. It's big, it's obnoxious, and frankly, Philadelphia is a great setting for Homefront. The folks in charge of the sequel are really happy with what they've been allowed to do without THQ's involvement, moving from a very linear progression to a much more open world execution, which, to be frank, that's kind of what Homefront as an idea lends itself to. Number 36, Albion Online is a sandbox MMO. You can play this game on Windows, iOS, and Android, with other people playing it on any of those platforms. And if that makes it sound like it's dumbed down, you're very wrong about that. All the items and buildings are crafted by the players in the world. It has a crafting and player-driven economy, combat to claim territories, or even just attack and watch the world burn. You don't need to care about the spoils to be a victor. And here's the other thing, in the PvP, when you die, people can fully loot you. The combat actually looks pretty unique, in that everything is classless, and a lot of people can play it at once on a lot of different platforms. Number 35, Unravel is a physics-based puzzle platform game. It's one of those unique games that just immediately gets a fan base. The mechanics combine traditional platforming with some puzzles that you have to solve using the yarn that you are made of. And I've seen a couple of comparisons to Little Big Planet, but I don't think they're the same kind of game on account that's a creative platforming game, whereas this is a puzzle platforming game with a heavy emphasis on physics that I can't wait to dig into. Number 34, Dreadnought is a game where you take control of a large spacecraft and fulfill the role as captain using the weapons to attack other very large ships. And there's a very specific emphasis on very large ships. This is not like a rogue type situation. You are the captain. It's not going to be dogfights. A lot of this is about strategy, anticipation, and positioning. On top of that, there's multiplayer that sounds pretty damn fun. Number 33, For Honor is a hack and slash game that Ubisoft is bringing out that takes a pretty known concept and grounds it a little bit by not making it fantasy oriented. It's actually intended to be somewhat historical and gives you the option to play as medieval knights, samurai, and Vikings, to give you a few examples. It is a hack and slash, but it's a little bit more tactical, and the battle system is actually called the Art of Battle. And they structured a lot of the multiplayer modes around shooters, with the creative director of the game actually calling it a shooter with swords. Yeah, sign me up, thanks. Number 32, The Witness is Jonathan Blow's next game, and essentially is kind of like an open world puzzle game, if that makes sense to you. It's inspired by Myst, so anybody who is from my age bracket is gonna go, oh, maybe I will try that. It has been in development for a very long time, and it really does look like an advanced title that does have a bit of mystery surrounding it, as Jonathan Blow has actually kind of avoided telling people what the big core mechanic is, calling it kind of a spoiler. Now, Braid was a great game. I love Myst. I really look forward to see what Blow comes up with. Number 31, Shadow Warrior 2. Now, you may not remember the old Shadow Warrior games. That's fine. 3D Realms hasn't existed in quite a while. It's from the Duke Nukem era, though. Shadow Warrior is kind of a so violent it's funny game, but it also is touting a much more clever sense of humor and mechanics that really just get why old school shooters were good, but don't just leave them exactly as they were. Now, the reboot came out in 2013, and clearly Shadow Warrior 2 is the sequel. And from the looks of it, it's going to build a lot on the original game, including a procedural damage system, bringing in the ability to blow off off limbs and body parts. Number 30 is Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2, which is obviously sort of a weird mashup between a third-person shooter and a tower defense game. But this is basically an update on what is a very massively popular game that has a weird, fun charm that for some reason I can't put it down when I play it, with a very large amount of improvements. Everything from the user interface to just the amount of modes. It does have a story, but it's basically a turf war, and it's not really necessary. I'm a big fan of the first, and I'm really looking forward to the second. Number 29. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands is a tactical shooter and is the very first entry to the Tom Clancy series that has an open world environment. Now the game is not set in the future, instead it's set in present day Bolivia, and a certain special operations unit, the Ghosts, are sent in to try to reveal a connection between a drug cartel and the local government. I'm pretty excited to see if Ubisoft actually pulls this off, because we see plenty of fantasy open world games, but not so much tactical shooters in an open world. That's gonna be interesting. Number 28. Adrift is a first-person interactive fiction game, meaning it's a walking simulator, but let's stop calling that a genre that's bad. They're not always done right, I'm not saying they are, but neither is any other genre. Adam Orth basically came up with this idea after he really screwed up and said deal with it in regards to the original Xbox One DRM stuff. Hopefully Adam Orth is a better writer and game designer than he is a PR man. Number 27. Darkest Dungeon combines a mix of real-time movement and turn-based combat and this art style that is one of the most memorable I have seen in a very long time. Stress actually plays a factor in this. If stress gets really high and it remains unchecked, they actually develop afflictions, which from the looks of it seem to be kind of like status ailments. I like that. And to just point out one other thing, why is it that side-scrolling RPGs are happening so much and looking so cool? Number 26, Dark Souls 3. Did you like Dark Souls 1, Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne? I mean, that's a long list of games that are from the same developer that follow a similar formula and are all great. On top of that, they're adding a few combat mechanics like ready stance, which are essentially special abilities. And on top of that, all of the levels are designed basically just to kill you. Tell me, what more could you ask for with a Souls game? Number 25, No Man's Sky. A totally procedurally generated universe that you get to explore in a spaceship, combat enemies that are unique to every planet, and generally just see things that you could probably never imagine without having dipped your toes in No Man's Sky. Everything we've seen of this game looks amazing, and it's almost hard to believe that it's real. In fact, that's the reservation people have about it, if it will actually deliver on the massive promises that it's made. So far, it's looking pretty good though, I have to say. Number 24, Firewatch is this game that looks incredibly interesting. The art style is like a painting that has come to life. You play as Henry and you uncover clues about various weird things that have been happening around you, and somehow relate back to a security tower being pillaged while he was out on patrol. Intrigue is what we are dealing with here. It actually relates to real life as it happens in the aftermath of the Yellowstone fires of 1988. Apparently the game doesn't have a whole lot of combat, if any at all, but it takes a lot of its inspiration from BioShock, namely Atlas, and how he